Oh, great example is when I started my account, it was just still images and they were doing awesome. That
Mhm.
is not exactly the game anymore. Now it's evolved into these videos and reels and interacting. So if I only posted still images, I'm sure that I would certainly fall behind. And I've seen others do that. That's not always the case, but
Yeah.
I think it's a good example of kind of what you just said is you need to acknowledge trends and what's popular and what people are liking, enjoying, and evolve with that.
Let's blow this up.
Look Alive Bomb Squad, we are back for Season 1, Episode 3 of Let's Blow This Up. I'm your host, Jason Sircone, and by now, you've probably caught on to the trend that's developing here. Whether you're listening to this podcast on your favorite streaming app or you're joining in all the fun and festivities on YouTube, thank you for being part of the Let's Blow This Up experience. And that's exactly what this is. It's an experience. I hope you're feeling it. Today, we're going to make you hungry, Bomb Squad, because I am joined by the one and only Stacy Skiavo, aka Yin's Hungry 412. Stacy is a food influencer with a pretty dynamic Instagram account, and I'm telling you now, this is the disclaimer. When you check out her account, you're going to get hungry. Stacy is doing an unbelievable job compiling footage and sharing it with you so you know what you're going to experience when you visit these establishments. Today, she is going to share her thoughts on what it takes to be an influencer in today's jam-packed market. Believe me, this is a different world. When she started her account, and if you think about anything you've done with social media, when you started to where we are today, it's a different world. Stacy's going to share some tips and strategies on how you can stay engaged in the process. And Stacy and I also do a little rant on The Office to kick things off. So if you're into The Office, you're going to enjoy that part of the conversation as well. So I'm going to step aside so you can join me and Stacy on episode 3 of Let's Blow This Up. Season 1 continues to roll down the track. I hope you're having a good time because I know I am. It's Season 1, Episode 3 with Stacy Skiavo. Let's go. Are your D level?
Yes.
Who's A, B, and C? Like, give me an example of each level.
So, like, keep Pittsburgh dope. Like, that would be, if you're going by strictly influencers, he's definitely A. I mean,
Okay.
like, or like Pittsburgh dad, he's definitely A.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
One of my like really good friends is an influencer. He's at least like a B or C. Alex eats too much. He has like,
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe like 20,000 Instagram followers or something now. Something like that.
He's blown up
Yes.
recently. Like I mean, I remember seeing him in the early stages of what he was doing, and now you see what's happening. It's like,
because like,
I mean, him on the show. It's the theme.
He is one like really good example of like going viral and how that can change you. Because honestly, we started our Instagram accounts around the same time because we had like both kind of been talking about it and like thinking about it, and we did it. I also always tell people Alex tries so hard. He puts so much time and dedication into that, and it shows, and he's earned it. And that's why he's gotten that. In addition to his Chinatown Inn post going viral, that also gave him like at least 10, 15,000 followers, something crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I have not gone viral, and that's why I'm still stuck in D level.
Well, do you aspire to the Alex / Pittsburgh dad levels? Is this something we're shooting for at some point in time?
I don't know about that far. I would like to grow it much better than it is because honestly, like it is more of a hobby to me than like a job I'm trying to have. And I'm not trying to retire my PR career. That's what I want to do. And this is more of a fun hobby that I'd like to be a little bit more successful in, get invited to like, those better events, that better notoriety. But like, no, I'm not trying to, be that A-level Pittsburgh celebrity. Like that's all right.
So we're definitely going to dive into more of that. But Stacy, I got to ask you, you're a fan of The Office, right?
Love it.
Okay. So I knew we were on the same plane with that. So I have to ask the question that I ask every Office fan in the very first conversation that I have with them about the show. What are
Okay.
your thoughts on Robert California?
He is a conflicting character. I think he is fine. I mean, I think that he added something a little bit different when clearly there was a lot of changes with the show. Michael Scott was leaving. My big point to around that character is when they brought in Will Ferrell and he was it D'Angelo Vickers?
Mm-hmm.
He was terrible. That is actually when I feared that was the end of everyone loving The Office. But thank goodness they injured him off with a basketball hoop and all was saved. Because honestly, even though Michael was gone, it wasn't the same. And other than getting a little crazy with making Andy look like a crazy person, I
Mm-hmm.
still think like the show was great to the end.
I'm with you there, and this has been my thought on it, especially when you go back and you watch it over and over again, and you see
Which I
the
have.
brilliance that Spader brought. The timing was so off, and I think even the creators have said this. I feel like I've heard this in passing that they had James Spader in a very bad spot because he had to come in and fill in for Steve Carell and take
Yeah,
over that main boss's role,
it's a
and no
big
one
shoe
was.
to fill.
Yeah, it was
Nobody
huge
knew
shoes.
that.
No, like no fan was going to accept that. But if you take that element away and you actually look at Robert California for what that character was, and the some of the freaking lines this guy brought, like
Mhm.
what's the one that always makes me like, well, the one was even in his interview. Do I look like someone who would waste his own time? I use that all the time.
The fact that he was a character not trying to be Michael Scott is why he worked so much better than Will
Yeah,
Ferrell's character. Because
right.
that
And then
one,
well,
it was trying too hard. It was so uncomfortable. Like it actually gave you flashbacks of like season 1 The Office when they were still trying to figure Michael out. And
right.
Michael was just mean and rude and less funny. And like it took them some time to be like, we don't need to be like the British version. We can find our own Michael Scott, our own boss. And then
Yep.
they clearly got it.
Absolutely. And I think that might be why there was such a decline with Andy, because they were trying to make
Mhm.
him the same, and it was
Yeah.
a little bit different, creepier.
It got
He's
weird, and,
but
like, I don't know why they couldn't let him end up with Erin. Everybody wanted that.
I
Let them
know.
have their ups and downs, but, like, that was one thing that kind of bummed me out. I wanted them to end up together.
Well, if they really wanted to torpedo the show, they could have went with their original plan of breaking Jim and Pam up, because that was actually talked about. And
Ugh.
then they, like, I think it was Krasinski stepped in and said, "No, we can't do this."
No, people are going to lose their minds if
Oh,
we make
there would
that.
have been a revolt. That would have
Yeah,
been
like,
bad.
in the end, you're right. That would have been much, much worse, but still, though, Andy, like, needed a bone. Like, they never really gave him much in the end other than him being like, "Alright, I'm gonna get my life back on track now."
Right. All right. Got to have an office podcast. Got to do this. This has to happen. All right.
I
Because
know.
I could sit here and talk about this stuff all night, but
Same. Like, did you listen to Office Ladies with Jenna Fisher and
in and out. And it's for one reason I can't, I don't like Angela Kinsey. I
that
just
is
don't.
I do agree with you because I kind of hate admitting this, but it's absolutely true. I love learning the facts. I do not
Mm.
think I would be friends with either of them in real life because they're a little flighty. They
Yeah.
they weren't getting to like the meat of it. They weren't very fun. Like their characters are hilarious. Them in real life, not so much.
Yeah, no, the characters were great. I had no problem with the characters. It was just,
Yeah.
yeah, Jenna Fisher. I've seen her outside of that role of Pam, and I don't mind her. Something about Angela Kinsey just comes off as fake, and she has one of those
Yeah.
constant agreeing type of personalities on a podcast. Oh, I love that. I love this. I love you.
It's like it's so
Hate some.
cheesy that you're like,
Yeah.
Okay." No, I know exactly what you mean. So it's like I took it for the facts. I think I probably listened to about half of it, but like I did drop off a little bit just because like I didn't enjoy their personal humor and personalities as much as their characters.
Absolutely. Well, Stacy Skiavo, I'm so happy to have you here on Let's Blow This Up. This is going to be a fun conversation. And for those in the audience, members of the Bomb Squad, that aren't familiar with what Stacy is bringing to the table, in addition to a very successful PR career that we're going to hear about, and all these great communication tips and strategies that she can bring us, she's created an account on Instagram that's going to make you hungry. It's going to make you excited to go out and explore some of the great places in Pittsburgh if you are local to our great city. Stacy, welcome to the show. And I want you to take a couple seconds to introduce yourself to the Bomb Squad and let everyone know who you are, what you do, and how you're changing the world on a daily basis.
So happy to be on the show. Glad you invited me. But like I said, I am Stacy Skiavo, aka Yin's Hungry 412. That you will find me on Instagram, just, crawling around the burg, introducing to everyone with the latest and greatest restaurants and attractions in the city. I do my best to go to all the restaurant openings, tell you the do's, the don'ts, the best breweries in the burg, which is so many. We have such a great selection.
Yes, we do.
So I like have fun with that. I love partnering with organizations and other food influencers. And I've really made a lot of great friends like in that foodie community. So that's been fun. But switching gears to professionally, I work in public relations at an agency called BCW, which actually just merged with another company. It'll be known as Burson later this year. Okay. So slightly different job title change, different job, but nothing in my day-to-day will. Through that job, I work with corporations all around the country, all around the world at different scales. I mean, mostly with a media focus, but also heavily on a strategic focus for their entire year communication campaigns. And just, positioning them in the right light to, their audience, their target markets, and also showing that they are a thought leader in their industry and what they can actually demonstrate. So love my job, love doing that. And because of that, I also have decided to join 2 years ago now, PRSA Pittsburgh, where I am the young adult chair. And we all pitch in, we all do everything for the board, but my heavy focus is to really help bring people in the young adult level, or if you're switching jobs, looking for jobs, and just demonstrating new opportunities, whether that be an agency tour or one of our most recent events. We decided to do a PR lens and speak to the publicist of Cirque du Soleil. So that was really cool. We everyone went to PPG. We actually got to sit in the crowd as they kind of like set everything up. We got like his background, kind of the ins and outs of like how you promote a show at that scale and a traveling show. And then actually there was a big surprise at the end. We actually all got tickets and got to see it too. So that one was neat because it was on ice and it was acrobatics. So it was a package deal. And that's the great thing about like PR and communications is it leads you into so many other industries. Like I have clients in banking, I have clients in chemicals, or like I get into the entertainment industry through the PRSA. So it's always an adventure. And everyone in my practice says we're kind of like novice experts on everything just because we have to be. It's part of the work.
Now, the work that you do at BCW and the work that you're doing as an influencer, is there any cross-pollination between the two? Are there any synergies between both of those that you're able to take one skill set from one side and use it in the other and vice versa?
Sometimes I'll have like worlds collide. Like a lot of the time with my job at BCW, we don't do as many local things, but every once in a while we'll do pro bono or local something. And that will slightly cross over with like an organization or possibly like a restaurant slightly connected or an influencer. So yeah, they definitely do go hand in hand. It's all communications. And in addition to that, at BCW, I actually do manage some influencer content. I did an influencer program for one of my clients promoting all of like their electrical products and like how anyone, like if you have no background as an electrician and you're just redoing your home, how these products are super easy and they can transform everything. So you could like have a smart home. So there's like that influencer overlap right there. And it just all works hand in hand.
I would have to imagine that perspective would be something that clients would find valuable, even if they're not trying to aspire to be influencers, at least that understanding of how social media engagement works and how you can help take their social media presence to another level. That has to be invaluable. Even if that's not the role that you're supposed to be filling, at least you have that insight and can help them make steps to go in the right direction.
No, it definitely is, because a lot of our clients, like, they know that social media and influencers are important, but they don't exactly know what else to do and what to look at. So whether it's actually finding an influencer to promote a campaign or a product, or like just improving their social media tools in general, because we do have like a lot of clients that they're doing okay. They at least some post on a regular basis. Other ones, they're just kind of like sitting there stagnant, not anything's really happening. So part of that is kind of doing a deep dive seeing like what content we should have, calendars, what's the most beneficial content, and what audience we should be targeting so they have the best success.
Now, when you started doing everything in this space, you started with a blog, right? So this was all about writing. And
yes.
Now, this is a two-part question. Does that blog still exist as part of your current practices with Yin's Hungry 412, or did you just transition everything over to the Instagram account? And in doing that, was it an easy transition? And what should people be aware of if they're looking to do something similar?
So it's kind of like a two-part thing. Well, first I'll go to the writing. So I started my passion with communications started with journalism, which is still a part of my life in many different aspects. So starting like from high school and immediately, joining the newspaper, being the editor in chief at my college and continuing to write, and then freelancing for like Trip Live and other like small publications in the city. I always knew I enjoyed writing. And then that one day evolved into writing for another small publication, and they had me feature a food blog. That is no longer. But then I decided to, take it into my own hands, have my own account, which I did many moons ago. I did also do blog posts for my food features, but in like the past year or so, it's certainly just been on the Instagram account and focusing on that. I also have a TikTok, which is much of the same content. There's only a few different things, but really things just, evolved from like the love of writing. And then that turned into like, well, I like social media. I like where this is going. I like this promotion, and kind of collided both worlds. I would like to pick up the personal blog again. It's been on the to-do list, but so
I
many
know the
different
feeling.
things in life have happened. Yeah, between like getting different jobs and moving. And I did a couple other things like the support the community. Like I mentioned to you, like Pittsburgh's 50 Finest, things like that in life have just kind of delayed getting back to writing of the blog. So now I'm just very focused on the Instagram, TikTok account.
I have to imagine, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that initial writing of blogs translates and transfers over to what we're seeing on Instagram these days, because I feel like a lot of captions that we're seeing on Instagram are taking on the form of, or the presence of, a blog, to where a person doesn't necessarily have to have the blog itself anymore.
Yeah.
They're doing their writing very creatively in some cases. In other cases, it's just dribble, but that's a story for another day. But the fact is, those captions are looking more and more like blog posts and can deliver that information and then be accompanied by the reel or accompanied by the video, the pictures, whatever you're using as your post. So I'm assuming those skills were provided a nice backbone for you as you made that jump over to Instagram.
No, you're absolutely right. And honestly, you've also defined my excuse for myself, because I really do try to do very detailed captions. So whereas I'm not putting in that extra time on on my website to post the blog post as well, I try to provide enough information as far as like my own character and personality, my experience, the food that I actually had, so that I know when I go to a new restaurant, I love trying to find someone's experiences in the food posted. So like if I hear they like it or I get a visual of it, especially like I went to the new Argentinian restaurant. I am not well versed on all of my Spanish. So I had to like referencing from some of my friends that went there before me. It was perfect. I knew exactly what I wanted to order. Totally happy with the way it worked out. So like I try to do that for others for the things that I'm also looking for myself. So putting those extra details so it can actually, this is a post of value. Because what I also tell like my personal friends or people that I meet, they're like, oh yeah, I'm always looking for new restaurants. Like when you have dinner plans, and I do it myself, just scroll through, see what catches your eye, or like if you're in the mood for pizza or breakfast, like you can find it pretty quickly just by scrolling through, and then you can read a more detailed post of like everything I had, everything I liked. And I have in the past year done many more reels. So you can get also like more of that full story from the video and the caption as well.
I feel like there's a huge opportunity, and I actually worked with a restaurant back in my social media days where we took the whole menu and put it into Instagram as a highlight and broke down each menu item with like a little caption. I took very professional pictures and then broke it down per category so you could go in and actually look through and see the food along with the description. Do you feel that's something that more restaurants should be diving into, the way that people are utilizing social media to get this influence before making a decision on where to go?
I don't know why people don't do it all the time. Like
Mhm.
I hate so much, especially I'll go onto a website and there are 0 pictures. So
Yeah.
then I'm hoping that like Google Images or reviews, like maybe that can help me if Instagram's failing me or something like that. Because there is so much value in just including that picture with it, especially like if it's not, if you go to an American restaurant and it's a bunch of burgers. I mean, if you have a really nice photo, that's going to lure you in. But
Mhm.
like for someone that is kind of new to like Indian food, you go on there, you read the titles, you're like, I'm not exactly sure what I'm signing up for. But if you have the vision, you're like, that looks fantastic. I'm going to give this a whirl. So, I
Mhm.
mean, I really think that can also make and break. Like, if someone even goes to a restaurant, if they are like already convinced by the visual that that looks appetizing to them, then they'll decide that's their place for dinner tonight or this weekend.
Well, there's also the argument to be made that you're not going to make everybody happy no matter what,
Oh,
and
of
I
course
think
not.
that when it comes to food, you're recommending something that you felt was great for you, but for me, it may never be something I like. Like Indian food is not my jam, so more than likely, no matter
Fair.
what gets posted, I'm scrolling past because that's just not something that I typically go out to
Right.
have, and I've just never
But
been
for
a
the
fan.
people on the fence and open to it, it can
Mhm.
be a game changer. But yeah, but of course, like it's not gonna work for everybody. We're
No,
all
I
different. We're all unique. Like my
yeah.
food, I will share my food bugaboo is I love shellfish, but I absolutely hate fish. Tuna, whitefish, salmon.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely repulsed by it. But I mean,
I
give me
could
some
see that.
mussels, calamari all day.
Yeah, I could see that. I remember when I was doing my beer blog and working in the beer space years back,
Mm.
one of the big bugaboos in that industry, and I probably would venture to say it still is, are the untapped ratings. Are you familiar with untapped?
Oh, yes, I have an untapped account, and I
Okay.
that's another one I do my best, like, especially when I'm traveling, like, for new breweries, so I know that hopefully I was smart enough to note it at that time, and I can reference it or remind myself if I really liked it or not.
And that's one part of it. But the thing that I would always laugh with the people that I worked with, especially the brewers, because we'd go on Untapped, and actually I shot a video with Rivertown of them reading their
Mhm.
bad Untapped reviews years ago. It was hilarious because people would go on there and give them 1 star and say, I don't like IPA. Well, don't drink IPA.
Oh, yeah, well,
Especially don't
that's
rank
silly.
it if you don't like IPAs, but that's the problem. That what I always had a problem with was that hurt the overall score of that brewery because
Sure,
you've got somebody
it's
that isn't
true.
into a beer style rating it as a 1. Come on, we can do better than that.
Yeah, that's not exactly fair, and, like, that does paint a very poor picture for, I love IPAs. I'm not a big
Mhm.
stout girl. So, like,
There you
yeah,
go.
that's a huge difference between what's going on. Like, I guess you should almost kinda, like, include what your favorites and you ideally like, and then that could kind of steer it a better way, but yeah, I guess I never really thought about it that way because I use it as own I was looking to really just track my own opinions and less to look for others. But like, yeah, we're all utilizing it differently.
Absolutely. No, I just think that's one of the funny things about accounts like that or programs
Mm,
like that. I mean, again, you have to be open minded on your side of it and understand that there are going to be people that are just going to do that type
right.
of thing just for the sake of it. But it's good that there are voices that are trying to counterbalance things and at least provide a good perspective. And yes, it's your personal perspective, but it also provides good insight to where if someone is on the fence or maybe feels like that's not for them,
Mhm.
maybe they stay away, and that avoids potential bad press getting put out there, bad
Right.
reviews getting
Right.
put out into the world, things like that. On top of that, I feel like in addition to I followed this restaurant marketer. His name's Matt Plapp. He's a great account at Matt Plapp on Instagram. And
Mhm.
I met him through a past client's podcast. That's where I got to know him. And he does some phenomenal work in regards to helping restaurants not just grow social media, but also collect data and do things that are going to ultimately serve as growth. And one of the big things he talks about is not just posting pictures of food every day, but telling
Mhm.
stories and doing
Yeah.
things that bridge what you are as a restaurant to a potential customer coming in to experience you. Now, having those food pictures in place are great, but having that bridge is equally as important. And telling that story of who you are and why you are there to serve a certain person How do you feel that translates to what you and other influencers are doing in this space?
No, I think we are all definitely telling stories, and I think video and reels have definitely given us more of that power to do so, because like you can also tell an image with a still image, but it's definitely much harder to do. When you have a video and you're taking them in and you're, touring them around the facility and you get that whole feel instead of just, that one meal or that one bite, but it also gives you the power to like get to know the people like that own this and run this restaurant, or the people behind the bar, or like their kind of own quirks and personality. Like every account has its own different tone, and some is like business as usual, but others have like their own personality and flavor. And influencers more so, you can tell that it's, the font they use, the style they use, the cuts they do, their in their description. But restaurants, like it's a little bit different because you have the opportunity to take it to the next level. And you usually see that if you have someone, not every restaurant is lucky enough to have their own social media manager, but I think it really does show when you have someone that is also hired to do that, that takes that extra time. Because like, not that I've ever owned a restaurant, but I am sure that you have almost zero time to also run your social media account. And when that happens, you're doing what you can. But it honestly does show when you see someone just doing what they can, opposed to, taking that extra time to tell that story, get that personality, get that whole like well-rounded view of who they are and what they're doing, and like make someone more curious. Like when you get like a piece of it, you want the whole thing, and you want to understand, and you want to be a part of it too. When you get more of it, you want to experience that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that dedicated social media manager because they get it. They're there for a reason. And
Mhm.
I've seen restaurants that have had campaigns where they've brought in a series of influencers
Yeah.
and had that collective potential viral growth because you've got all of these people in the same room with the same purpose. You're giving them
Mhm.
one thing to report on, and they're going forth and doing so. If you don't have that type of person in place, or you don't have that type of mentality in regards to how you're utilizing the social media at your disposal, you're probably going to get left behind, and you do lose a little bit of that
Mhm.
mystery and intrigue and that ability to bring your story forward.
Yeah, and I think so many restaurants also don't understand the value of it. A lot of times being in Pittsburgh, we have the luxury that Pittsburghers really, really value partnerships. And I can't speak for every single influencer, but for many of them, myself included, if you just offer, whether it's a menu tasting, some type of small influencer event, just exchanging posts for like the food and the product, most of us will say yes. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're in LA, that might be a completely different story. But in Pittsburgh, it's extremely common. We've even done it just to like, we'll have fun, but also we know it helps our accounts. Like I have a group of friends that all have accounts. And when we
Mhm.
get together and we're all posting the same things at the same time, we all usually do pick up a few more views, a few more followers. Like just working together in that sense is super valuable just for us. But also, yeah, like it is thousands of dollars to pay for someone. But when you can just give out a little bit of food, one meal to a few people, like
Yeah.
that is just so much more valuable.
I mean, from the restaurant's perspective, and I might be speaking slightly ignorantly because I've never owned a restaurant either. But when it comes to food costs, which is really what's at play, you're not saying like, oh, I'm giving away this 21.99 plate that I normally would sell. It's like, what's the cost of that plate before your markup? And
Hmm.
then you get that additional exposure. And the hopes is that's going to bring more people into where you're going to do 5 times, 10 times, whatever number goal you
Right.
set.
I mean, it's an investment. Like
Yeah, it's
you're
marketing.
investing into
It,
that. And yeah, and
it's
it's marketing. And
yeah,
like,
should
yeah,
come out of
like
the marketing
me,
budget.
like the numbers, you can break down the numbers, but I mean, even someone like me that's more of a micro influencer, if you give me one free meal and I post on there, like the value of that is so much more than like, I don't know, we'll just say the $15 that it costs you to give me that free meal. It is worth at least hundreds of dollars in marketing and views. So, I
Right.
mean, it's just a matter of a lot of people in Pittsburgh do get it. Not everybody does, but if you
Mhm.
do, it's so valuable.
Have you ever encountered anyone that has that you've tried to express, this is what I'm doing, this is what my friends are doing, this is how we're trying to help you, and they've expressed to you, I don't get it. We don't get this. And they've really pushed back against the process.
Well, I mean, for as far as for like my food account, usually I'm at the level where I'm not usually trying to track people down. They're usually coming to me. I will say that like there are some that I feel like they could tweak things a little bit. There was little things they could have done to make, like, if you already set this up to make it so much better and to amplify what you're doing, and if you put a little bit much more work, the value increases. But I mean, in my professional life, there's definitely it takes a lot of time to really get a lot of clients to understand the value and why this matters. And that comes down to, well, constantly doing reports, breaking down the numbers and showing the value of all of that. So once you can actually prove it with data, saying that like, all right, we did this and it cost you this much, but at the same time, the value of this many views, impressions, and hitting the KPIs is worth this much. And this was worth it. Like demonstrating the value in the end through metrics and KPIs. Then they get it. Then they're more on board. Then next year they're like, all right, maybe we can increase your budget. That was really successful. How can we grow? How can we improve it more? How can we, maybe we'll do some like giveaways or discount codes and take it to the next level. So, I mean, you got to start with basics. Like, I mean, new things are scary. Putting in money is scary. Doing things you don't understand is scary. But when you start seeing the value and you start to get it, then you grow more and more and do better and better.
I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that you really can't hold those things in your hand.
Yeah.
When it first begins, it's intangible. You can't tell what's going to happen. You're basically clinging to a hope and a dream, it seems, right? But there are people like yourself that understand the logistics of how you get from point A to point B, and they have to open up and trust you.
I guess my personal comparison, which has been explained to me and I am getting now, is like investing into like stocks and like different financial programs. Because my boyfriend is a financial advisor and he's like, Stacy, you should be doing this and this and this and this. And it's just like, yes, I want to make more money. Of course, I want to improve things. But like, if I give you all this money, how am I getting that? How am I buying this stock? Am I actually making this money? And like, that's something for me that like, I can't hold. It's like kind of feels really, really out of my control. I mean, and again, with your own money, you're very sensitive too. So like a little scared, but now my wall is like falling down. He's showing me like proof of what that is. So, I mean, everyone's different and it translates differently and what scares you a little bit, but with the proof, you get there.
Creating engaging, explosive content that positions your brand as an authority and go-to resource in your industry doesn't need to be complicated, stressful, or time-consuming. All you need is a strategy that sets you up for success and a partner to keep you on the right track. This is my mission at Bombtrack Media. I'll show you the most efficient way to produce brand-elevating content that can be utilized throughout your digital footprint, all done with your goals and busy schedule in mind. You're not a full-time podcaster. Why commit to a full-time podcaster's schedule? It's time for you to blow this up and rethink how you grow your brand. Visit bombtrackmedia.com today to learn more. Yeah, it takes a minute, but once that proof is in front of you, it makes all those decisions come a little bit easier. And then when you do see things actually working for you and in your favor, taking a little bit more risk becomes more realistic.
Exactly.
Well, Stacy, I want to talk to the person in the Bomb Squad that might be thinking about starting this journey into the life of an influencer. They might be on the D level like you, starting out, aspiring to the A level at some point. Exactly. They have to start at some point, but social media being what it is today, it's a little trickier. And I don't know when you officially started your account, but my guess it was at a time when organic engagement was a little bit better than what we're seeing today.
It was, oh goodness, it was probably 2016 or 17.
Okay.
And you're absolutely right.
Different world.
It was, there just wasn't as much competition. No one was really doing it, especially again, like in Pittsburgh, there were a handful of accounts and those were the ones that you followed because you had nothing else. But now there's so much more competition. Like I've seen specifically like for pizza, There were a couple ones from the get-go, and they, you know, kept growing, doing awesome. And then other little ones would start jumping in and they would slowly disappear because it's like that there's already a couple people in town. We're like a small to mid-sized city. So like there's only so many pizza accounts you're going to follow.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you do that specified niche, like yes, that is good. But at the same time, if you have too much competition, it's oversaturated, that it's going to be very challenging to break through with that. So really now, like you're saying, it is much, much harder.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so what does a person do knowing that they're going to have some competition? They're dealing with a completely different algorithm, a completely different social media landscape as a whole. What do they need to do to get started and stay engaged so they can continue to grow and experience some of that success that you've experienced?
Well, I think first you need to establish kind of your own brand and personality. And I think honestly, the smartest thing is just kind of still doing maybe like Pittsburgh in general, maybe not just doing like just pizza or just something, because I don't think that's really working anymore. Yeah. But if you establish that, that helps. Honestly, if you really want to start taking off, putting a little bit of paid into it helps, at least like you start, get your face out there and everything. But really also doing partnerships. Like in Pittsburgh, there's also like a social media cohort, and it's run by one of my friends. And the whole point of it is because she realized there was an actual like an influencer content creator network in Pittsburgh. It's so that we get together, discuss, and bounce these ideas. So, I mean, going to those events, talking to those people, meeting those right people, starting off there. I mean, really also pushing like building the relationship with restaurants. Like that is going to be hard. You're not going to get responses from everyone, but someone will probably respond to you. Like I know a bunch of influencers where I can tell like they have a special bond and partnership with certain restaurants. So they're always like promoting their events. They're doing way more highlights there, features there. So maybe just finding like whether it's your favorite restaurant, pub, whatever, and you like got to know the owners and or the bartenders, having that conversation and being like, hey, I'm trying to get this going. I love you guys. Let's promote you. Like, let's work together and do that. So I think through those partnerships and like really establishing yourself and talking to the community, those are the best building blocks to try to get somewhere. Or if you get lucky enough to go viral, that helps too.
Now that virility, is that something that should be looked at as a strategy? Because to me, and this is how I've always looked at viral content, it helps. It can get more eyes on you. This is how, when I was doing my beer blog, that was what got me on the map, was a viral post. And I looked at it, immediately went, shit, what do I do now? It wasn't excitement because I knew, okay, this is what I wanted. Now I have to continue to deliver to keep these captive people that have come to my blog captivated. Did I keep them all? Probably not. But ideally, when you're looking at content, that viral piece, that can be great. But on top of it, I think of everything you said is great. I think a lot of this comes down to trusting the process and continuing to deliver with consistency, because you have to earn trust from anybody that finds your account, and to keep them locked on to whatever you post versus just quickly scrolling by, you have to have that trust. And as you build it, they will stay on your account a little bit longer than others. It takes time to get there. And that's where I think so many people don't have the patience for that.
No, that's so true. I've seen that a bunch of times too, where accounts do super well and they're posting very consistently, and then they just kind of stop. And like, I get it. Like if something big has happened in your life, or like you just need a break, like that happens, but that will hurt your account. People will notice, they will unfollow. So, I mean, yeah, that's exciting, but I agree that can also be scary, because you're like, well, now my expectations are so much higher. People require, like, I would say at least a post every single week, consistent stories, like new content. People will want to know what your value is of even following them. Like, what are you bringing to them on a regular basis? And yeah, the pressure is there.
And I would also say, and I learned this from others, this is not something that I would say was my advice, but I know I've heard this from many people that have been extremely successful with social media. lean into what works and don't try to reinvent the wheel every week.
Yeah.
People will get that viral post, and instead of just doing more content like that, they're like, oh, cool, let me try this now and see if that works. No, like lean into what just got you to the dance.
Right. You can absolutely stay consistent. I think throwing in some of those bigger ones and testing them out is fine, but like don't completely flip the switch. I mean, yeah, what you had was working and it went viral, but like if you want to try something a little bit edgier or a bigger partnership, or I mean, I know some people have gone viral and then they found themselves on like Pittsburgh Today Live, maybe even try to do that. Like you're absolutely right. Keep going what's working, but then like sprinkle in some of that big stuff because like you have the momentum and don't let it die. Absolutely.
Well, as we get ready to wind down, let me ask you something slightly controversial, and I don't want it to come off that way, but it's probably going to. Okay. Is there a way that a person in that influencer space can avoid a shelf life? Because we know influence only goes so far, and there's always going to be a new person coming in that's going to be trying to take over that space and get that real estate from that influencer, doing the exact same thing, doing something slightly adjacent. How does one avoid potentially becoming irrelevant in the influencer space?
Right. At a certain point, what really like comes to mind, it's kind of following the same pattern as like a company or organization, maybe actually doing a refresh, doing a rebrand. If you have a logo or some type of signature, like updating that in some sort of way to make you seem new and fresh, and kind of re-examining also what's popular. Like, a great example is when I started my account, it was just still images and they were doing awesome. That is not exactly the game anymore. Now it's evolved into these videos and reels and interacting. So if I only posted still images, I'm sure that I would certainly fall behind, and I've seen others do that. That's not always the case, but I think it's a good example of kind of what you just said is you need to acknowledge trends and what's popular and what people are liking, enjoying, and evolve with that.
So much to stay on top of in this space. I commend you for being able to carve out some success in this space because it's not easy. Can it be rewarding? Absolutely. I think the biggest lesson that I can give, and I'll let you impart your wisdom as we wind this down, you got to have fun with what you're doing.
Oh, for sure.
I gravitate to podcasting because I have so much fun having these conversations and helping others realize that they can have great conversations too. They just need some coaching on how to do it well. That's why I love what I do. And podcasting is where I gravitate to, but other people gravitate to Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, you name it. There's a number of networks that you could spend your time on. But if you're not having fun creating content on those platforms, what is the friggin' point? Why make yourself miserable with something that when it was originally brought to the world was for positivity and for fun?
That doesn't always happen.
That slip away. No, it doesn't. I mean, you think about sometimes you go on social media and you just get upset. You just get miserable because it's just a series of shit sometimes. But if you look at it from your own standpoint of this is what I want to accomplish, this is what I want my account to look like, here's what I'm going to do to make that happen, and you stick to that mission and have fun doing it, that's going to keep you engaged in the process. That's my 2 cents on this. Please add yours, Stacy.
No, and I think that kind of gets back to what we talked about in the beginning is I felt like my life was getting a little stressed and it was very difficult for me to fit in these written blogs on my website. And it was just kind of, I was trying to be consistent, trying to fit this in. And like, when something I really enjoyed was starting to stress me out, like I kind of knew I needed to change something. Yes. So that is how I changed and evolved, where it's like I still can have my joy. When I really like my account, I love going to these dinners, interacting with the other influencers, the restaurants, the everything. And it seems to still be working by just sticking with the social media accounts and just, you know, giving more color to the captions and evolving to the reels. So I'm going to continue to do that because like this is the level. I'm happy with this level of success at this point in time. I'm happy with exactly what's happening, what I'm doing. And it doesn't surpass to like, now I don't enjoy my hobby and it is another job. Cause it's a job in its own sense, but like keeping it to where I really, the fun parts of my job and not like filling out the timesheet. I mean, I didn't get to that blog this week, part of the job.
Well, I can say, Stacy, as I said at the top of the show, you're doing an awesome job. Every time I look at your account, it makes me hungry. but it also
That's
makes me
cool.
think about, where do I want to go next? What restaurant do I want to try out? Because I guarantee you, if you're in Pittsburgh, Bomb Squad, take a look at Stacy's account, because you're probably going to find something that you haven't experienced before. And Stacy's recommendation might push you over the edge. So you take that journey. Stacy,
Well,
you are awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me here on Let's Blow This Up. Tell everyone out there how they can connect with you on your Instagram account or wherever else you feel they can get great value from you.
sure. Well, I guess the two places I would say is, well, three, is on Instagram and on TikTok. I am at Yins Hungry 412, which we're all Pittsburghers, so we know what Yins is. Or if you'd like some more professional updates on the world of public relations, communications, looking for a job, just some advice in that world, please add or message me on my LinkedIn. And that's just, just type in Stacy Skiavo and you will see this face and just click the button and connect.
I'll make it easy for everybody. All those links will be in the show notes so you can easily get
Even
connected
better.
with Stacy. But before we go, let's end this way, because let's keep this short, because we could probably go on all night about this. For our listeners not in Pittsburgh, they may not understand what Yins means. Do we want to go down this path and try to explain?
I know how to do it. I was just actually at a client meeting and I was telling them about my blog. I was in Houston. And so the best way to put it was like Yins is basically like saying, hey guys, or y'all. Use it the exact same way. It's just the Pittsburgh way.
That's a very good way of explaining it. I moved to Pittsburgh 20 years ago. I can't use it. I do not like Yins. There's a lot of the Pittsburgh vernacular.
So you have picked up other Pittsburghese.
Have I?
I don't know. That was a question.
Oh, I don't think I have. I mean, I refuse to use the term gum band. It is a rubber band. I will never pronounce it radiator. It is a radiator. Because you don't radiate heat. You radiate heat. Damn it.
There's the buggy and that. We have so many good ones.
I know, it's crazy. Well, Stacy, I gotta say, like I said, this has been a lot of fun, and I want to thank you once again for joining me on Let's Blow This Up.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.